Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. If I could have your attention, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is such an incredible turnout, and I want to thank you all for being here. My name is Dan Guido. No, I am not the governor. I have been mistaken, but now that you can see us both together, you'll see that we really are just kind of alike, right? But
he's better looking.
But I'm proud to call him my friend, and I'm really happy to have you. About once every month, I get mistaken for being the governor, and I had a person in Grand Rapids stop me on the street and insisted I had to show him my ID, just so I could get away from the discussion. But I'm always proud to be mistaken, and we're very proud to have him here today to speak with us. This has been an incredible day for all of us to be able to meet with you, and it's been an incredible experience as well. And if I can say anything today, I wanted to make sure that I say this to all of you veterans. Thank you for your service to our country. And now, in proper tradition, for those of you that can rise, I'd like to ask you to rise. If you cannot, we understand, but we're going to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, which stands behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Earlier this year, the MLive Media Group began an ambitious project to chronicle and take pictures and tell stories of all of our remaining World War II veterans in the state of Michigan. 670,000 Michiganders served in the armed services during World War II. 10,263 died during that conflict. There were over 29,000 who were injured and wounded in the war. Today, there are only about 39,000 in the state that remain for us to chronicle. And many of you are here today, and we're so pleased that you've taken the opportunity to join us. This project was the brainchild of our editor in Kalamazoo, the Kalamazoo Gazette MLive editor, Mickey Chikilo. And I don't know, I saw Mickey earlier. There's Mickey back here. Mickey, thank you for giving us the impetus for this project. Mickey was inspired by an earlier visit to the coast of Normandy and to Omaha Beach to make sure that we recognize the tremendous sacrifices not only in that part of the war, but in all of the war, and gave us the inspiration in the MLive Media Group to take on this project and to try to identify all of the remaining veterans that were here and alive in our state. We started chronicling these stories in April, and we've learned so many things by talking with you. We've told stories of men who served and women who also served and did so nobly, and told us stories that were in some ways just hard to understand and hard to fathom. I told a reporter earlier today that you all lived the stories that I've only heard about. And so you know your memories are real and not to be imagined. And they were stories of great sacrifice in a time of immense pressure and conflict. We talked to people like Robert Biggers from Lawton, who was a pilot, who told stories about aerial dogfights, explosions in midair collisions, and talked about explosions on the runway in front of him. He spoke about the fact that when he was on a mission over Germany and France, that he had a midair collision and parachuted to the ground only to be caught in a tree. When he found he was behind enemy lines, he tried to run for his life, and for 3 days he was on the run before he was captured and taken to a POW camp where he was held until his release on his 21st birthday. A harrowing story, certainly, at least. And we heard from a man, Clifford Kent in Muskegon, who was at Pearl Harbor, a story that we all heard at my generation so many times, but he was a part of the rescue crew that was going around Pearl Harbor and trying to rescue the many soldiers that were killed and injured, and trying to do all he could to save the lives of those that he could possibly save. Just two examples of people that we recognize and honor for the service that they gave to our country, who told part of their stories. And we have chronicled over 3,500 people in the state now whom we've identified, and more came today. So thank you for taking part in this project and helping to enrich the experience for us and for generations to come. We not only recognize the people in the paper and through stories online, but we also hosted events in our hub cities. We have 8 around the state of Michigan, and we had over 600 veterans show up at these places in order to tell us their stories and have their pictures taken. In one particular case, Henry Zlidasic from Grand Rapids was standing in line, waiting to come into the Grand Rapids office, and looked around him and saw a familiar face standing right beside him. You see, in 1945, he was injured and taken to a camp where he was put in a place where he could heal in Oswestry, England. And while he was there, he met a man from Grand Rapids who was also in the same Quonset hut, recuperating from injuries he suffered in the war. That man's name was Morris Clayman. Well, Morris happened to be standing in line right behind Henry, and Henry recognized him immediately, and they made a connection. Now, who would imagine that after all of these years, 69 years later, they would come together and see one another again for the first time, but have a memory of surviving the war together. These are the kinds of stories that simply have touched the lives of our readers and viewers all over the state of Michigan. Your stories, all of your stories, and all that you represent to us. We are honored. We are honored to be able to do what we've done to encourage you and to help you tell your stories so that we can give you the right kind of honor that you deserve. And now let me introduce to the podium Carl Kentner, who is a World War II veteran and a docent here at the Capitol. Carl himself is a veteran of the war, served in the South Pacific as a member of the U.S. Navy, and led forces onto Okinawa and served admirably there during the war. Would you welcome to the podium Carl? Thank you, Carl.
Fellow veterans, I'm one of you. While we're here today, though, take a look around. Please notice the 80 flags here in our rotunda. Those 80 flags represent 90,000 Michigan people who fought in our Civil War. Do you realize without the fight of those people, we wouldn't be here today? Michigan had more people than most of the states. In fact, we had more per capita people fighting in the Civil War than any other state. That's why we are such a great state. I too am like many of you. I was drafted. I got out of school in 1943 and got a nice letter from the guy in the White House. It said, "You will." Well, I did. I visited 12 islands in the South Pacific aboard an amphibious craft. I made the initial invasion of Okinawa. While on Okinawa, according to the Naval Academy, which I just visited 4 years ago, they told me we underwent 10 direct air attacks by the Japanese airplanes and numerous suicide boats. We survived them. I also had the opportunity going through the Philippine Islands and helped secure that island and clear on to Japan. Visiting Japan, the U-boat naval base, we took the armament out away from that base. We collected every shell and gun from that naval base and took it out into the ocean and dumped it. Our ship was hurt during that time, and if you know anything about an LSM, it's small enough that it fit in the House of Representatives. It's not very seaworthy to go over. Well, finally, after 16 invasion work, they sent me home. I've been proud to be part of a group of volunteers that volunteer for you to take the students through this building. Every half hour we have a student group going through this building to show them the history and the language of Michigan, and also the political end of it. If you want to take a tour, we'll be happy to have you. God bless America.
MLive Media Group has not been alone in helping to assemble the veterans around the state. We've had partners, and two of them are here today to speak with you just briefly. And I'd like to introduce the first, Jeff Barnes, who's the director of the Michigan Veteran Affairs Agency. The Michigan Veteran Affairs Agency serves as a central coordinating point, connecting those who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces and their families to services and benefits throughout the state. They are responsible for administration and operation of the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund, the Michigan Veterans Homeowners Assistance Program, Michigan's 2 veterans homes, and other veterans services. Would you please welcome to the podium Jeff Barnes.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. And this is a huge privilege and an honor for me to be able to address this crowd. I'm so thankful to be surrounded by the patriots that we have in this room. But I want to get to know the folks that we've got here. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hand when I announce your branch of service, beginning with the United States Coast Guard. Let's give a big round of applause. I know Carl's going to lead the charge on this. The United States Navy. United States Marine Corps. Happy birthday, guys. You turned 239 this week. Outstanding. All right, the United States Army and the United States Army Air Corps. And the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. For you ladies, I want to say a special thank you because you paved the way for my wife to be able to continue her service in the country as a helicopter pilot in the United States Army, an OH-58 Delta Scout Reconnaissance helicopter pilot. She provided support to us on the movement from Kuwait to Baghdad, and it would not have been possible without your service. So one more round of applause. And I would be remiss to not thank the family members that surround us above. We couldn't do it without your support when we're deployed and when we come back home. Thank you. I want to say on behalf of my generation of veterans, vet to vet, so if everyone else can indulge me for just a second, I want to thank you for the legacy that you gave us. As a nation, you taught us resiliency, the kind of resiliency that allows us to meet the challenges that we see in today's ever-changing world, from 9/11 to what we continue to face operationally across the world. Your resiliency taught us that we need to strive to serve something greater than ourselves. And that is something that lives on with our current generation. While deployed to the Balkans, I had the opportunity to work with some folks from the local community who said, you know what, I recognize that patch on your shoulder. That flag set me and my family free. That flag meant freedom to us, it meant a quality of life to us, and it meant a sense of dignity when your troops served here years and years ago. And I thank you for your service. And I want you to tell them when you get the opportunity to thank them for theirs, because the quality of life that changed after you stormed across Europe allowed them to have a quality of life, to move on with their families, and to have a great experience. An experience that we later would be able to intervene in again and be able to work with those families to get their communities set up after some fierce fighting in the Balkans over the years. You showed us as veterans the importance of serving something greater than yourself. Right before we deployed to Iraq in 2003, we had a group of World War II veterans that came in to speak to our squadron leadership. And they told us a few things. They said, first of all, you're going to be amazed at what your troops will do on the battlefield. You're going to be amazed at the challenges that you see, and you're going to be amazed at how the training will kick in. And as we rolled into Asamawa on the way to Baghdad, we came into heavy contact just south of the Euphrates River Valley. And the first thing that my driver told me at that point is, sir, this is just like being at the National Training Center. Those guys were right on. And you set us up for success by telling us to be prepared for that and to be prepared for the things that happen on the battlefield that you can't predict. And so that was a great experience to get us prepared for, but you also gave us a little bit of humor in it. Because in 2005, when we went back to Iraq, I had soldiers that asked, when are we going to get email, sir? When are we going to have internet access? Do you think we're going to be able to see football games this fall? And we went back to those same discussions we had with our World War II veterans before we deployed and reminded them that you served for years, not knowing when you were coming home, not knowing when the next mail call was, and that maybe the most important thing that we're there to do is not to worry about our internet connection. And so we had some good humor there. But finally, I want to tell you that I think this generation has taught all of us humility. It's about doing the service and the mission that you're called to do, and then coming back home and continuing that mission to serve in your community and to move on with your life. And I don't need to look any further than my own family to be able to say that, because I had 6 young men that left the farm in my family to go serve overseas. And between the Pacific Theater, North Africa, and Europe, they fought in almost every major engagement. I never knew that while they were here. I never knew that in that family we had over 24 Bronze Stars and a half a dozen Purple Hearts. But they taught me the meaning of service. They taught it to my father, and both of us proudly served. And as a veteran of Iraq, I want to tell you that the torch of freedom and the shoes that you created were an honor to be able to carry on as we pursue freedom across the world. And I hope that our generation has lived up to your expectations. Thank you each and every one for the service that you've given to our nation. Thank you to your families, and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Jeff. And now our next speaker is Debbie Hollis. Debbie is the president of the Legacy Memorial Group that is working to create a permanent structure to honor World War II veterans in Royal Oak. The Michigan World War II Legacy Memorial will provide a year-round, multi-purpose destination that will encourage visitors to commemorate those who have served and celebrate our freedom. The group hopes to also serve as an inspiration for future generations, reminding us all of the unbelievable patriotism, selfless sacrifices, and extraordinary devotion to liberty that helped save the world. Representatives from the Legacy Memorial Group have attended several of the events that we've held in our hubs to help us spread the word, and we appreciate their partnership. Debbie, we're glad to have you.
Governor Snyder, associated guests, and our honored World War II veterans, I'm so privileged to be here today. To be in the company of so many World War II heroes is truly a blessing. On behalf of the board of the Michigan World War II Legacy Memorial, I want to thank MLive for the opportunity to be here today and to share in all of these events over the last few months. MLive has truly set an example of how to honor the men and women of Michigan's greatest generation who literally saved the world. Being here in this beautiful rotunda at the Capitol is a very special place for all of us to be, and I sincerely hope that all of you veterans know how much you mean to all of us just by virtue of the special place that we're meeting today. In 2006, our board started as Honor Flight Michigan. We took World War II veterans on day trips to Washington, D.C. to see their national memorial. It's very possible that many of you in the room traveled with us. it was our honor and privilege to travel with you and to take you to your national memorial. After 4.5 years, 33 flights, and 1,400 Michigan World War II veterans, our waiting list was complete. We decided then that it was time to bring a World War II memorial to Michigan. It was then that we started planning for the Michigan World War II Legacy Memorial. We gathered our team of an architect, our sculptors, our contractor, our board members. We spent a long time making sure that we were telling your story correctly so that you will forever be honored for your service and sacrifices. The Michigan World War II Legacy Memorial will tell Michigan's story during World War II. It will be a 50-50 tribute to the home front and the war front, and how our state's unique role in the war helped lead the country to victory. Working with Senator John Papageorge and Representative Jim Townsend, we saw Senate Resolution 13 and House Resolution 20 pass, recognizing this memorial as the state's tribute to World War II. I want to extend a personal thank you to Governor Snyder, who also signed a tribute recognizing our efforts on behalf of our beloved World War II veterans. Our statewide memorial will be located in Memorial Park in Royal Oak, Michigan. It will tell the who, what, and where of the Michigan story, and how every man, woman, and child participated in some way to aid in the war effort. We are privileged to tell the special story that Michigan has to share and how we became the arsenal of democracy. The who will be depicted through a series of life-size bronze statue scenes designed by our sculptors Larry Halbert and Tad McKillop. They will represent forces on land, air, and sea, each being told through a Michigan theme. The what will be depicted through a series of pillars that will tell the stories of service, sacrifice, labor, industry, commitment, and change. The where will be depicted through a large, walkable granite map of Michigan that will highlight various industrial and military points of interest, as well as some POW camps that were here in Michigan. The entrance to the memorial will have inscribed brick pavers that will tell the stories of those who gave service to their country. This is the Walk of Honor. We will also have a Wall of Honor that will pay tribute to those who paid the ultimate price. We look forward to our online curriculum teaching future generations of the enormous sacrifices that took place so that they may enjoy the freedoms that they have today. It will be a year-round destination with a place to picnic in the summer and ice skate in the winter. Our architect, Michael Gordon, did not want this to be a marble garden, so he designed it to be part of the park, integrated into the fabric of the community, so that people will visit and return again and again. It will honor sacrifice and celebrate freedom for generations to come. Today is the culminating event for MLive and its efforts to recognize and honor all of you. They have done a wonderful job of putting you all in the spotlight. But it doesn't end here. We will continue towards our goal of building this memorial for you. You have all taught us so much about how to live our own lives. Your bravery, humility, love of country, commitment, and dedication set an example for all of us. We truly look forward to honoring each and every one of you, and we thank you all so very much for your service. Everything that we have, we owe to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, and that's certainly an exciting project, and we hope we can help support it. And now it's my honor to introduce to you the speaker of the hour, and that is our governor, recently reelected to another 4-year term, the 48th Governor of the State of Michigan, Rick Snyder.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's actually an honor to be with you. And over the last 4 years, I've done a number of events here in the Rotunda, but this is a special one. This is actually the largest group I've seen gather in the Rotunda of the Capitol for an event, because it's a great way to say thank you, and that for the wonderful service you've given our country. So this is a special day to us, in addition to you, I hope. So it's great to spend some thoughts with you in terms of ideas and concepts. First of all, though, I do want to thank MLive. Let's give them a big round of applause for doing this hard work. And you can see how far we've come in terms of chronicling your stories, because it's a living memory that we'll keep with us. As you can see from the Civil War days, we were able to keep flags. Now we can actually get your own words and thoughts and ideas and experiences that we can share with others. So it is wonderful the work they're doing. I also want to thank the Legacy Memorial Park Project. That's a great project to also, so thank you. So Debbie, thanks for your hard work and your organization. So thank you to the veterans first and foremost. You went in harm's way. You went into the most difficult situation in the world, and you made America proud. You kept us safe. You created a future for all of us. Thank you for that tremendous service. I want to say thank you to all the family members, because there were also sacrifices made there in terms of the experiences you had to live through, both during the war and after the war. And I want to say thank you to each and every family member that's part of this. I thought I'd share one experience, because every family was touched by World War II in some ways. One I would share with you quickly is my sister was about 7 years old. The war had ended. She was at our grandparents' home in Lansing. All of a sudden there was a knock on the door, and there was a serviceman standing in the doorway. My sister, even though she was 7, was fortunate enough to recognize him. It was our cousin. He was back from the war. She called for my mom and my grandma. They came to the door and they screamed. And why did they scream? Because my cousin had been reported missing in action in North Africa and presumed dead for several years, when in fact he had been a prisoner of war and never accounted for. So he showed up at our house, Grandma's house, because he didn't know where his parents lived anymore. So we were able to get our cousin back after that experience. And that's something that touches every family in terms of those kinds of experiences. So I appreciate the incredible things you've done, and it is great to honor you. What I would say, though, is I also want to honor your service after you came back. And I think it's great to see the stories. I've talked to several of you and heard things you've done after you returned from the war. You were that role model for many of us in terms of how we've lived our lives in the civilian world. And I want to thank, in particular, people like Carl, being a docent here, volunteering his time to teach history, particularly to kids. One of the fun parts of being in the Capitol and one of the fun parts of being governor, as Carl mentioned, is you get thousands and thousands of fourth graders coming through all the time. And you get to share those wonderful stories of the history of our state. The other part of our state we should be so proud, in addition to the veterans and all your wonderful families, is we were the arsenal of democracy. And when we talk about family support for the war effort, there's no better illustration probably in the world than Rosie the Riveter. And we should be proud. She was a Michigander working in Willow Run during those days. So we can be proud that we supported you while you were making those sacrifices. And it was really about Americans coming together. So thank you for sharing your stories and your experiences, both during the war and after the war. You're a role model, you're a mentor to all of us. We want to say thank you. And I look forward to having the great chronicle that MLive helped put together, a legacy park that the Legacy Project's working on, to continue that legacy of wonderful thoughts that we can pass on to our children and their children for generations to come. So I hope you have a great experience here. And again, thank you. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
Now, on behalf of all of my colleagues at the MLive Media Group, many of whom you have met here today and have selflessly given of themselves to bring honor to you, I know that I speak on their behalf and on my behalf to say that we are so proud to have been a part of this event today and a part of everything that's been going on this year. I have been privileged to stand on the USS Arizona Memorial. I have been privileged to walk through the cemetery at Normandy. I am no more privileged than I am today to be in your presence. May God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.